You don't wake up one day and suddenly feel lost. It happens slowly, one compromise at a time, one suppressed emotion, one fake smile. You start living for others, chasing goals that don't even belong to you. You follow rules that keep you small, silencing parts of yourself to fit into boxes you were never meant to live in. And before you know it, you're a stranger in your own life, constantly busy but deeply empty, surrounded yet disconnected. This isn't failure, it's a signal, a call back to yourself. Feeling lost isn't the end. It's an invitation to start asking real questions again. Who am I beneath the roles? What do I actually want? The path to finding yourself isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you to forget. You didn't mean to disappear. You were just trying to belong. It started small, adjusting your tone, hiding your frustration, laughing when it wasn't funny. You learned early that certain parts of you were too much, too sensitive, too loud, too complicated. So you trimmed yourself down. You became easy to like, easy to need, easy to manage. You read the room before you read yourself. You anticipated their needs before you acknowledged your own. That's how you survived. And that survival got misinterpreted as identity. But beneath the performance, a quiet ache grew. The ache of being unseen even by yourself. The more approval you got, the emptier you felt. Because it wasn't really you they were loving. It was the version you built to avoid rejection. And that version, no matter how accepted, still left you lonely. You kept playing roles to feel safe. The good child, the strong friend, the reliable one. Each role was armor, but over time, that armor became a cage. You didn't realize you were losing yourself because you were praised for it. People thanked you for being selfless, called you mature for not complaining, admired your strength when you were actually exhausted. So you pushed your real needs deeper underground. You thought love meant disappearing. That being easy to love meant being less of who you are. That's not love, that's self-erasure. You became fluent in their language, and forgot your own. What do you actually like? What do you want when no one else is watching? Who are you when you stop performing? The reason you feel lost isn't because you're broken. It's because you abandoned the map that led to your real self, and you did it for understandable reasons. You were trying to feel safe in a world that taught you that your real self was too risky. You didn't lose yourself because you failed. You lost yourself because you adapted. You were smart enough to figure out how to be wanted, how to avoid conflict, how to stay needed. But now those same strategies are suffocating you. The same behaviors that once kept you safe are now keeping you stuck. And the part of you that's waking up, the one feeling restless and confused, isn't wrong. It's the part of you that remembers who you really are. Healing begins the moment you admit I've been playing a part. I've been shape-shifting for survival, and I'm tired. You don't have to burn it all down overnight. But you do have to stop lying to yourself. You have to stop calling self-abandonment kindness. You have to stop mistaking people-pleasing for love. You have to stop choosing peace outside at the cost of chaos inside. The way back starts small. You say no when you mean it. You rest when you're tired, even if they disapprove. You stop over-explaining your decisions. You ask yourself, what do I actually feel right now? And you listen. You let the discomfort rise, and you don't run, because discomfort is the sound of your real self knocking at the door asking to come back in. You won't find yourself in their approval. You won't feel whole by being what everyone else wants. Your aliveness lives in the parts you've hidden, the ones that are inconvenient, messy, passionate, and wild. You don't need to become someone new. You need to unlearn the belief that you had to earn your worth by becoming someone else. Yes, you lost yourself trying to be what they needed. But you can find yourself again, not by being better, not by fixing, but by remembering. The real you is still here, beneath the mask, beneath the expectations, beneath the noise. You've just been too busy surviving to hear her voice. Now it's time to listen, and this time, not to them, but to you. At first, the disconnection is subtle. You feel tired, but say you're fine. You feel hurt, but convince yourself it's not a big deal. You sense something's wrong, but you rationalize it away. Over time, this becomes normal. You stop telling yourself the truth, because the truth is inconvenient. It threatens the structure you've built. Your relationships, your job, your image. So you push it down. You tell yourself you're being dramatic. You say I should be grateful, even when you're quietly suffering. You become fluent in half-truths that help you function but leave you feeling hollow. That hollowness, it's the cost of lying to yourself. We don't disconnect from life by accident. We disconnect when the truth becomes too painful to face. When imagining how we really feel might mean confronting people we love, or admitting that something we've built no longer fits. So we avoid. We smile through it. We stay busy, but the disconnection grows. You start feeling numb. You stop trusting your instincts. You don't know what you want anymore. And worse, you feel guilty for even feeling lost. Disconnection isn't just about your relationships with others. It's about your relationship with yourself. Every time you ignore your needs, you chip away at your self-trust. Every time you pretend you're okay just to avoid conflict, you betray the part of you that's screaming for honesty. That inner split becomes unbearable. You can't fully show up anywhere because you're not fully present within yourself. Truth doesn't hurt you. It's the avoidance of truth that does. The real pain comes from holding it in, from suppressing your sadness, your anger, your grief. Emotions don't vanish just because you ignore them. They find other ways to surface through anxiety, irritability, fatigue, or a lingering sense that something's off even when you can't explain it. You don't feel like yourself anymore, and that's because you've been editing who you are to keep the peace. You can't feel whole while hiding parts of your truth. You might keep the world fooled, but you can't lie to your body. It remembers every time you said yes when you meant no. It carries the tension of all the things you refuse to admit. That disconnection you feel, it's your body, your spirit, your intuition, all rising up to say enough. Telling yourself the truth doesn't always mean making a drastic change. Sometimes it starts with a quiet admission. I'm not happy here. I'm overwhelmed. I'm pretending too much. I miss who I used to be. These small truths crack open the door to real healing. They bring you back to yourself, and once you start being honest on the inside, clarity starts to return. You see where you've been overcompensating. You see who drains you. You recognize what's not working anymore, and suddenly, the fog lifts. This kind of honesty is not easy. It demands courage, because when you stop lying to yourself, you have to face the choices you've made while disconnected. But the beauty is, you can also start making different choices. You can stop over-explaining. You can stop faking a smile. You can choose people who honor your truth instead of punishing it. You can say no without apology. You can say, this isn't working for me, and trust that your life won't collapse if you choose yourself. The more you practice honesty, the more alive you feel. Your emotions return, not to overwhelm you, but to guide you. You start to recognize yourself again in the mirror. You no longer feel like a stranger in your own body. You become rooted, grounded, because you're no longer abandoning yourself to keep the illusion alive. Disconnection ends where truth begins, and that truth doesn't need to be shouted. It needs to be unnosed, quietly, gently, fully. You don't owe anyone a performance. You don't have to protect others from your truth. The person who most needs your honesty is you, because only when you start telling yourself the truth can you begin to live a life that actually feels like yours. You didn't lose your real self. You buried it piece by piece, moment by moment. Each time survival demanded that you be someone else. You became who you needed to be to stay safe, accepted or loved. You adapted. You shapeshifted. You silenced parts of yourself that were too much, too loud, too emotional, too inconvenient. You learned which parts got approval and which parts brought punishment. That's not weakness. That's intelligence. Your nervous system chose survival over authenticity because at the time that was the only option. You didn't disappear. You just went into hiding. The world often rewards a version of you that isn't whole. It rewards politeness over truth, productivity over rest, pleasing over boundaries. And so your real self, your needs, your desires, your instincts was pushed underground. You were told to grow up, toughen up, stop crying, be realistic. So you did. You abandoned your own signals and followed someone else's map. But underneath all of that conditioning, the real you has been waiting. Not lost, not broken, just buried. It's no wonder you feel confused. You've spent years following a script written by fear of being rejected, abandoned, criticized. You stopped asking what you wanted a long time ago, because it felt safer to just meet everyone else's expectations. You became hyper-aware of how others felt but out of touch with how you feel. And now even in moments of calm there's a sense that something's missing. That's not failure, that's the signal. That hollowness is your real self knocking from underneath the surface. Reconnecting with that self doesn't happen by force. It happens through permission. You give yourself permission to do what you actually feel. You allow the messy, inconvenient truths to rise. You stop judging your sensitivity. You listen to the anger you were taught to suppress. You get curious about the part of you that always wanted more connection, more meaning, more freedom. These aren't flaws, they're signs of life. There will be grief. You'll grieve the years you spent pretending. You'll grieve the relationships that only worked because you abandoned yourself. You'll grieve the dreams you muted because someone else convinced you they weren't realistic. That grief is sacred. It clears the way for something real to emerge. Not a performance, not a persona, but the you that never stopped existing underneath it all. You'll also face resistance. Your old patterns won't vanish quietly. The voice of your inner critic may grow louder when you start breaking rules that once kept you safe. You may feel guilty for wanting rest. You may feel selfish for saying no. But these are echoes of survival, not truth, and with time, those echoes fade as you build a new way of being. One where your needs are not a burden, one where your voice matters. One where your presence isn't dependent on perfection. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. It's about unlearning the shame, the guilt, the self-doubt that was never yours to carry. It's about recognizing that your real self is not too much. It's exactly enough. It always has been. You find yourself not by adding more, but by stripping away what was never yours. You let go of the masks, the scripts, the obligations that make you feel like a stranger in your own life. And slowly, your energy returns. Your preferences return. Your clarity returns. And one day you wake up and realize you're not performing anymore. You're living. Your real self isn't hidden in some distant future. It's right here under the rubble of survival. All it needs is your presence, your attention, your willingness to stop running. You don't need to earn your way back to yourself. You just need to start listening again, and when you do, you'll realize you were never truly lost, just waiting to be found. Coming home to yourself isn't about becoming flawless. It's about choosing to show up exactly as you are, even when it's messy, even when it's hard. Most of us grew up believing that we had to earn love through performance. Be the good one, be the strong one, be the one who doesn't complain. That training runs deep. It teaches us to chase perfection, not presence. So we spend years trying to fix ourselves instead of learning to face ourselves. We keep waiting until we're better before we let ourselves feel worthy. But that version of healing only creates more distance. Coming home isn't about fixing everything. It's about sitting with what's here, without turning away. It's about having the courage to feel what you've been avoiding, to admit what you really want, to see the truth you've been afraid to say out loud. That takes far more strength than pretending to be okay, because pretending keeps you trapped. Truth sets you free. It takes courage to admit you're tired of performing. It takes courage to say, I don't want to live like this anymore. And it takes even more courage to stop trying to be who others expect and start becoming who you actually are. That's the turning point, not when everything looks good on the outside, but when you finally start choosing yourself on the inside. The world won't always applaud your return to yourself. Some people may feel uncomfortable with your boundaries. Some may miss the version of you who said yes to everything, who stayed silent to keep the peace, who kept the mask on to protect others. But that discomfort is not your problem. Your responsibility is not to stay small to keep others comfortable. Your responsibility is to reclaim your life. Coming home isn't about perfection. It's about honesty. It's about asking, what do I really feel?